Good afternoon and welcome to the 205th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. We had a great week of basketball this past week. We had the Sweet 16 over the weekend. Now we're into the Elite 8. The semifinals are going to be this weekend, and then it's time for the state championship. So just 8 teams remaining in each classification. And I think at this point, these are all great teams. Specifically, a team like Lovett on the boys' side, Christian Anderson was red hot. He was taking about 20 to 25 shots a game. He lit up McDonough for 42 points, had 42 points against Hampton, had, I think, 32 against Pace Academy, earned the top seed, but then Madison County was able to get the win. They just have so many great shooters. And so that's what I mean by great teams. The same can be said with football, but you really begin to see it. You have your starting lineups. I think Madison County is a good example with all these different players that can come in and knock down big shots. But even in Class 3A, a team like Johnson-Savannah, who I believe they're going to play Sandy Creek coming up, this week in the Elite 8. Johnson-Savannah, not only do they have a great starting lineup, they have guys coming off the bench where this guy might be the lockdown, speedy point guard that plays great defense and is known for steals. Each guy kind of has a specific role and a specific spark that they bring to the lineup, and I think that's what we're seeing with all these teams now. It's not just the main scorers. Every different player has something they're bringing to the table. It reminds me of a story that my buddy Akbar, who I went to Walton with, he was our point guard, played basketball with him more than anyone else. And I'm not trying to name drop, but the year that Steve Nash won the MVP, we got to sit down with him and his son's teammates. And Akbar was talking to him about just how he improved his game and all this. And one of the things that Steve Nash said, which I think is so true, is you never compare yourself to another player. He took out a piece of paper, he drew a box. He said you have to improve on the things you're good at. Steve Nash was not trying to be the defensive player of the year. He was a great facilitator. One of the few players in NBA history to ever shoot 90% from the foul line, 50% from the field, and 40% from the three-point range. So really you just look at your own strengths and see how you can bring that to the table. I think that's what we're going to see in these rounds right now. It's not just the big-name guys. It really is going to take a complete team effort. Got to say another crazy story yesterday just because it was absolutely nuts. I came into the office after stopping by MARTA probably about noon, and all the fire alarms were going off. I was trying to prepare for the show and do some other things, but it was so deafening that I couldn't be in here for more than 10 seconds. So I ended up leaving. I went over to the river down the street and was just walking around because I was going to come back to the office and see if the stupid fire alarm stopped going off because we were busy doing basketball Friday and Saturday night, so I really wanted to get some work done. So I'm walking, and I grew up just completely afraid of dogs. I'm not afraid of them anymore. But if I see a stray dog, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Does this thing have rabies? Is this thing friendly or not? And so I'm walking, and 800 yards ahead of me, I see this dog just kind of wandering back and forth. It's clearly lost. There's no people around. I'm deep into the trail, and I get up to it, and I'm like, this dog is acting really strange. As soon as I tried to look at its collar, it freaks out. But it's like strange behavior. I'm like, has this dog been lost for weeks? What's going on with this thing? And it was shaking. So I ended up looking at the collar. I get the owner on the phone. It turns out they live really close by. And then while I'm on the phone with them, getting ready to meet up, the dog just goes wandering like off the ledge into the lake, just falls off like a 3-foot ledge and starts drowning. And I'm like, hey, your dog's in the water right now, gotta go. So then I had to jump in the lake, and then it turns out this dog was 17 years old, couldn't see, and literally just like fell into the lake, was about to die. So it ended up working out, got the dog, returned to the owner, but it was just insane. I've never experienced anything like that, but I can say, I guess my relationship with dogs is vindicated now because I saved Sparky's life yesterday. So I was excited about that, but it's just crazy to be in that situation with a blind 17-year-old dog jumping into a lake. So that was nuts. But anyway, other than that, the weekend was filled with some big results. I want to start on the girls' side because they played most of their games on Friday. So here's the big matchup that we're going to be looking forward to this week, and it's Brookwood. Brookwood's been outstanding. They have Deanna Collins and also Jade Weathersby and then Danielle Osho. All those girls are capable of not only scoring 15 to 20 points. Deanna Collins is more of the 25 range. They all can rebound. I think Brookwood's size is a real strength. A team, like let's say you only have a big center. You have that like 6'11", like even on the boys' side, you have a 6'11", a 7-footer. If your team has bigger guards and bigger forwards, it's not going to matter as much. If you have more height in 4 other positions and they just have one big, you can counterbalance that, get the rebounds. Brookwood has 3 players that have a size advantage all down low. And so despite how good Carrollton's guard play is and how well coached they are, that Brookwood size is just overwhelming. And so now they're going to play South Forsyth, who we had their head coach Keith Gravitt on a week ago today. We had him on Monday. South Forsyth's having an outstanding season. They've now won 18 straight games. They beat Peachtree Ridge 54-35, showcased outstanding defensive effort in that one, and it was Coach Gravitt's 300th career win. They had a big lead in that one, 22-14 at half, 43-26 heading into the fourth, so they cruise. So a big matchup, big opportunity right there. Obviously Brookwood is the team with that star power and size advantage, but can Coach Gravitt come up with a game plan to slow down Deanna Collins? The other big matchup, it's going to be Archer and Norcross. Archer's the team that fell just shy to Brookwood in the Region 4 tournament, and then Norcross is just one of the top programs. Anytime Norcross is hosting, that gym is packed, it's hype. It's a hostile place to play in, so I would say if Norcross, just with all their talent, if they avoid the turnovers, protect the ball, and play their game, I think they have a chance to be a really good Archer team. You have North Paulding is going to be at Buford on the girls' side. Buford had a big win over a solid Cherokee team, 72-52. That improved them to 26-3 on the season, and they're going up against North Paulding. And North Paulding's had some big wins this season, I think including South Forsyth. They beat them earlier on. Then you're going to have Central Gwinnett at McEachern. McEachern is a team that's won state titles on both sides, the boys and girls. They've been outstanding. Central Gwinnett's coming off a pretty impressive win over Walton, which Walton had one of their best girls team in many years. That was coming off a region title, and they went down in the last round. So Central Gwinnett and McEachern will be interesting. And let me just check real quick. Who beat Campbell? So Pebblebrook fell to North Paulding 49-30. And yeah, McEachern beat Campbell 50-47. Campbell's a really good team. They have two girls that are going on to play at the next level. I think Hampton is one of the schools. So let's go down real quick to the 6A on the girls' side. Once again is going to just be a must-see next few rounds with just all these reigning state champions, the reclassification, and some big victories in the last round. Gainesville beat Woodstock. That was a 63-61 win. Carson Martin led Woodstock with 28 points, but it looks like Gainesville, they were able to rally in the fourth quarter. I think they had a new head coach come in this year with a lot of experience. Gainesville across the board, if you've been following what they've done athletically this year, it's been really impressive. Up in 6A, just with football, all these different sports, they are really blowing up. But that's a huge win for them over Woodstock. Sophomores Julia Payne, Drea Maddox, they had a combined 30 points. So great sign for Gainesville. They are one of the few number 4 seeds still alive, but they're going to have to take on Lovejoy in the next round. Again, that they might not come out of on top, but great experience nonetheless. Can they just maybe have that one decisive quarter where they are able to beat the Wildcats and then make it a close game down the stretch? Sequoia is going to play at Brunswick. Brunswick had a good win, 53-48 over Woodward Academy. They forced 27 turnovers and held Sarah Lewis, Woodward Academy's outstanding playmaker, to 23 points. But you saw Sarah Lewis go off, but then the turnovers that they were able to produce with the rest of the teams, that was huge. And then we're going to have Hughes playing Rockdale County. I think that will be a great game. The Hughes boys lost. The Hughes girls are still in it, though. They were playing great basketball. Rockdale County looks like a potential favorite, though. And then how about River Ridge at Marist? Two teams that have really been playing well as of late. Marist, their lockdown defense, and then River Ridge, a team that has made many deep runs. They are absolutely balling out. And let's see. For River Ridge, they beat Alexander 70-36 in the first round, and then a 65-47 win over Blessed Trinity this past weekend. So River Ridge and Marist, another great matchup right there. And then I was looking at who beat Valdosta. One sec. That would have been in 7A. No, it's the team that plays. One sec. I have a point that I wanted to make. Region 1. Okay, that was Carrollton. So Carrollton, I talked about how they really gave Brookwood a fight, but ultimately Brookwood's size, with their kind of 3 big players with Deanna Collins and them, they were able to get the edge. But Carrollton had to play both McDonald's All-Americans in the first 2 rounds, so that was tough. Valdosta and Brookwood, so a good year for them. But just wanted to point that out. So let's go to the boys' side real quick and get started with that. In 7A, the matchups this upcoming Wednesday are just tremendous. We knew it was going to get better and better, but I think on paper these are some of the best quarterfinals matchups, not only in the state, but in recent years and probably in the country this week. You're going to have Grayson against Walton. Walton, the 4 seed, they're coming off a big win over Peachtree Ridge. I'll get into that stat line right now. Let's see. That was Luke Flynn, the junior guard for Walton, had 33 points, a massive performance against Peachtree Ridge. Really carried the team. And then Caesar Burrows had 10 points and J.P. Wells 13. So just a big performance from Luke Flynn, kind of solidified himself as a go-to elite player. He'll have his hands full against Grayson, who beat Valdosta 76-53. So that's a really intriguing matchup. What I also like about it is next football season, Walton and Grayson are opening the year against each other in the Corky Kell. So I think that's just another added kind of thing into the rivalry between Grayson and Walton. Grayson, a team that denied Walton the state championship in 2011 in their only championship appearance. So it's good to see that Grayson-Walton rivalry heating back up, and that would just be a massive win for Walton if they can pull it off. You're going to have Norcross and Newton, an incredibly intriguing matchup. Newton looked phenomenal in the last round, 73-51 win over Pebblebrook after Pebblebrook's upset over Lowndes. They handled business. Norcross, they beat Osborne 72-60. Osborne had a ton of talent on their team this year. I just think with them, they'd have lulls throughout the game, maybe a bad quarter that they would have to overcome, but they definitely had the playmakers. But Norcross, they're going to host that one. That will be outstanding. You have Cherokee and Carrollton, two teams that are battle-tested out of great regions. Cherokee has played Wheeler multiple times already, so they aren't going to be overwhelmed with Carrollton, but I just think with the Trojans, they're so well coached and they know how to just take advantage of the individual matchups. They shoot well, and Cherokee's one of the better three-point shooting teams. So the key right there, can Carrollton stay disciplined, stay on those shooters, and kind of combat that great ball movement? And then the one that is definitely going to highlight the schedule this week, Wheeler and McEachern. It does not get bigger than that. With Wheeler, you have Isaiah Collier, the #1 point guard in the entire country, playing a McEachern team, another Cobb County team that's also won multiple state titles. They're coming in hot. They beat Westlake 40-22 last week. Just ridiculous defense. And yeah, Wheeler has not lost within the state yet, and that's just a huge game. I mean, anytime you're seeing the highest ranked national team in the state right now, the best player out of the state, the best point guard in the country, in this big time environment, you're going to want to see what happens. I think that one is just going to be electric. The gym is going to be absolutely packed. So much media there, and you're guaranteed to see a special night for sure. In 6A, let's see. Let me pull up Saturday real quick. Najeh was covering 6A. Lanier had a solid win over South Paulding. It was a back-and-forth game. It was one possession heading into the fourth. Lanier went on a 15-5 run, and then that was Osmar Garcia Arujo. He finished with 24 points and 13 rebounds to High Morgan 16 points. Thought that was a big statement for Lanier. They had a close contest to 4-seeded Cherokee in the first round, 67-64. That was a little concerning for them, but that was a solid way to close out against South Paulding, the #2 seed out of Region 5. Defending state champion Grovetown, 58-51 win over Marist. That was a big victory for them. Marist came into it. They probably didn't have the advantage athletically, but you knew they were going to have a game plan and give Grovetown every bit of resistance they could muster, but Grovetown was able to handle that one. And it looked like Darian Reed and Vashawn Ferguson both surpassed 1,000 career points in the victory. Jonesboro, they've been a team that obviously has won state titles before. They're playing really well, though. They won the Region 3 championship. They jumped out to a 22-6 lead on Brunswick, and it was over from there. Devin Raines, 25 points. Jaquez Aikens, 19 points. Alexander, they advanced 66-57 win over Shiloh. Shiloh had a strong first-round victory over Alpharetta, 64-51. Alexander beat a Rome team, a good Rome team, not a great team, but then that was a solid win for Alexander. 6A remains very interesting. Etowah is going to play St. Pius, 2 number 1 seeds. I think that will be another outstanding game. Etowah is really good. Wouldn't be surprised they make it to the Final Four. But St. Pius, they feel like they have a state championship roster this year. It's going to be a really great battle in 6A on the boys' side. The big matchups in 5A real quick before we go to a break. You got Hiram playing Jones County. Jones County was a 4 seed, one of those 4 seeds that we saw stumble in the region tournament. It happens, but then they had a really big win, 64-50 over Tucker in the last round. And then in the first round, they won 65-44 over Bradwell Institute, who was the top seed. Bradwell wasn't ranked, but if you're a number 4 seed, opening the playoffs with a 21-point win, 14-point win over Tucker this last week, I think Jones County has definitely moved on from that subpar performance in the region, and they're going to play a Hiram team that I believe is ranked number 2 right now. Sorry, number 3. Mays, they played a really good Winterboro team and won 69-68. So much resilience from Mays. They were trailing in that one. It was an overtime victory. Looks like they were. It says Michael Williams hit a last-second runner in overtime, and Winterboro's shot from half court fell short. Mays got the victory. Michael Williams led the way with 22 points. Darren Lindsay, 19 points. And Mays just has a lot of great guys that contribute. There's Solomon Evans. I forgot his first name. His brother was an absolute stud, but Wiggles, he's coming in, contributing in big ways. So they have a lot of those football players, and then they're just resilient. They know how to call back into the games, and they handle the moment. But they're going to play Eagles Landing. I think they're ranked number 2, so it's a huge quarterfinals matchup between Mays and Eagles Landing. Union Grove against Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill had 85-52 victory against Cass last round. They've been scoring at a high rate. Dutchtown, they beat a good Decatur team, the top seed out of Region 4, but they're going to have to play Kell next. Kell, just in the first round against Jackson, Atlanta, 97-68 win. They hit so many threes in that game, just caught fire, and then against Eastside, just dominated 79-48. Can anyone play with Kell? We will see. But let's go ahead and take a quick break and thank our sponsors, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So I'll go over a couple more of these before we get Najeh on. Back to the Cowboys. They're 25-2. They've won 12 straight. First 2 rounds, they've averaged 30-point average margin of victory, and their only in-state loss was to Grayson. They look really good. As for Dutchtown, Adrian Avery had 19 points and 9 rebounds. in the last round, he's obviously going to have his hands full dealing with Kell's size down low. In girls 5A, we're going to have Bradwell Institute at Kell. Can anyone stop Crystal Henderson? Offensive Player of the Year, Region Player of the Year, and a senior that has helped to lead Kell since her freshman year. And I believe they've lost to the eventual state champion every single year just by narrow points. I think when Kell was in 6A, they lost to Westlake that year. Obviously, Kell's in 5A now. We know how talented 6A is, so it is kind of theirs to lose. But they're going to play number 4 seed Bradwell Institute. The winner of that will play Union Grove at Maynard Jackson. And then you also have Midtown and Warner Robins are still in it, and Arabia Mountain and Calhoun. But I like Kell's chances, and it's all about Crystal Henderson. Can she close out her incredible varsity career with a state title? That would be Kell's first ever. So big storyline right there. In 4A, and we'll get into this a little bit, but I thought McDonough was perhaps the biggest winner of this last round. Played a really good Holy Innocents team in the first round. They're the number 3 seed. They were disappointed about that, but then just had a huge win, 78-38 win over Sonoraville. And I have a couple stats from that game. So junior Keenan Gray stepped up. They had 4 different players finish in double figures. Keenan Gray had 22 points and 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. Zayden Green, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 5 steals. Amon had 10 points, and then Avante Nichols had a double, 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 blocks. A great team win for them. They're going to play Westover next. Westover's coming off a 67-55 win over Southeast Bullock. I think we're going to have an intriguing matchup with Pace Academy and Baldwin. Baldwin's the top seed out of Region 2. Pace Academy, they've been playing well. Baldwin came off that 57-47 win over LaGrange, a really underrated team. I think it's going to be tough. Baldwin has great athleticism. They're physical, but can Pace Academy's guards get that win? Can Coach White draw up that game plan? But they will have to go on the road as the number 2 seed, and that's a pretty significant trip right there. Benedictine had a 72-59 win over Perry. They're looking really good, just playing great team basketball, bounce passes under the basket, converting, just a team that's gone quietly at this point to where they are in the Elite 8. They had a 65-47 win over Trinity Christian, and then they're going to have to play Madison County, who had the big win over Lovett. And I watched the end of that one. It was outstanding. They hit the game-winning shot, I believe, with 1 second left, and that was Grant Smith hit the mid-range turnaround jumper. They inbounds the ball. They had the chance to, because they were down by 1, they had the chance to basically bleed out the clock and take that last second chance, and he made it. He converted. It was a beautiful shot, and then Lovett fell short at home after their great run with Christian Anderson, and that's going to put Madison County into the quarterfinals for the first time since 1988, and that was the year they won the state title. So I think Madison County came out of that region with North Oconee. North Oconee fell in this last round, but they had a great win over Central Carroll out the gates. I think the other team in 4A that's been interesting to watch is Fayette County. They put up 98 points in the first round and then beat a really good Bainbridge team 51-49. They're going to play Woodland Heritage in the quarterfinals. So Benedictine, Madison County, Fayette County, Woodland, Pace, Baldwin, and McDonough Westover. Really solid field in 4A. And then in 3A, the big matchup, you're going to have Douglas. A lot of people thought this game would be close with Hebron Christian against Douglas Atlanta. Hebron, I forgot who it was, but they had someone join the team mid-season, gave them a boost. They had a big win over White County in the first round, and then Douglas 74-43 win as the number 3 seed over a good Hebron Christian team. And they're going to have to play Doherty in the next round. He's coming off a 76-59 win over Harlem. Cedar Grove is still in it. They beat Monroe area, great number 1 seed, 62-55. Long County beat Upson Lee. So Cedar Grove, Long County would be a good matchup. And then Cross Creek is going to play Hart County. I think both those teams have potential to take it all this year, but Johnson, Savannah, and Sandy Creek might be the biggest matchup with, I think in my poll I have Sandy Creek number 1, but most of them have Johnson, Savannah, and it's just that depth I talked about. Every person that comes into the game has something unique they bring to the team, and it really is just a outstanding team top to bottom. They put up 107 points in the first round and then 78-54 over Crisp County. Sandy Creek also dominated those 68-22 win over Wesleyan. So I think that matchup speaks for itself. Johnson, Savannah, and Sandy Creek. Sandy Creek's trying to win its first ever basketball state title after, of course, winning the football state championship this year. So in a second, though, we'll get Najeh on. I want to get his take on what he's looking forward to this week with the Elite 8 matchups. We'll talk 7A, who he thinks is going to take the big matchup between Wheeler and McEachern, and then what his plans are for the coverage. So it looks like the games are going to be same sort of deal, spread out over 2 days. We'll have the girls play on Tuesday, and then the bulk of the boys will be Wednesday night. And then it's a really quick turnaround with the semifinals starting March 3rd through the 4th. That will be Friday and Saturday, and they're spread out at all different locations. I know in 4A, that's going to be at Fort Valley State. 7A is going to be at Georgia State's arena. 6A is at West Georgia. Let's see where 5A is. Sorry, 5A is at West Georgia. So is 6A. 3A and 4A are at Fort Valley State. 2A is going to be at GCSU. Class A Division II is going to be at Valdosta State. And Class A Division I is going to be at GCSU as well. So it should be 4 different locations. And I will be covering the Fort Valley State action, I believe, just for 4A, but it looks like I might have, yeah, because 3A plays on Friday, 4A plays on Saturday, so I'll get to the bottom of that. All right, there's Najeh. All right, so let's just start with first impressions of the 7A boys, what you're thinking about these matchups, and just what the playoffs have looked like so far with these teams being able to survive the first 2 rounds and set themselves up just 3 wins away from a state title.
Yeah, man, it's prime time now, so a lot of matchups going on. I'm definitely excited for the Elite 8. I think it's going to be some of the best basketball we've probably seen all year. Far as 7A, I mean, it's some major matchups. I mean, first and foremost, you got Norcross and Newton. Those teams are going to – it's a semifinal rematch from the previous year where Newton came up short by 3 points. We got major talent in that. I believe his name is Maury Jordan. He exploded for, I think, 36 points in their win against, I think it was Osborne this past week. He's really good, effortless bucket getter, somebody that gets the ball in his hands, good job playmaking. It just seems like the offense comes easy to him. He's already came out and said that he's looking forward to the matchup against Stephon Castle and obviously Jakai Newton, that, if needed, he's going to go guard him. He's prepared for it. So I think that's going to make for major prime time. As you guys all know, Stephon's a five-star, one of the better guards in the country, McDonald's All-American. And their hopes are also in making a state tournament run and making a state title run. So I think it's going to be really intriguing to see that matchup. If you're watching the other major matchup, that one's going to be a good one as well. But the other major one obviously is going to be McEachern versus Wheeler. McEachern has the home court. Both teams have identical records, except Wheeler is 10-0, I believe, in the region. So I think that plays into the favor of McEachern, honestly. Them having a home game. Not saying that not saying Wheeler can't do it on the road, but I think that plays into the factor of McEachern. They have a really good team. As I mentioned, Ace Bailey's a stud, 6'10", records commit, had the first round of the tournament. I think that's just going to be a major, primetime matchup. It'll be interesting to see in the backcourt who's going to guard Isaiah Collier. If they can slow him down, again, he's one of the top point guards in the country, one of the top players in the country. I think it's going to be interesting to see if they can just – I won't say it's hard to get a guy like that out of his game, but make it difficult for him to get buckets, create some turnovers, have runs early. I think it's going to be interesting to see as far as just 7A.
Yeah, McEachern, I'm interested to see how they stack up against Wheeler. I like their win over Westlake in the last round. Westlake has a lot of size. They have Juan Gaston. He's the sophomore that plays offensive line for them. We've interviewed him, 6'8", just a huge presence. He's a great basketball player too. So I think they got a taste of that size they're going to have to deal with Wheeler. But obviously the big question is Isaiah Collier. Just matching up with him for 4 quarters is going to be a real challenge. As we said, number 1 point guard in the country. So what do you think about Isaiah? Just makes him so dangerous as the guy that just moves that Wheeler team along.
He's a 3 scorer. He has deep range. So most people say that if the area of improvement they would say is his jumper, being able to pull deeper. But I mean, we saw when they played Newton in the major game on ESPN, he could shoot, he could score, he could slash. His playmaking is unrivaled. He's just a player that is dangerous with the ball in his hands. So even though you think you could take away his score, he could beat you with getting the ball to his teammates. If you play too much attention to him, he's going to burn you in other ways and beat you. So, I mean, he's just a difficult guy to guard. And he just knows the game so well, and he has a phenomenal IQ. So, like I said, it's going to be trying to get the ball out of his hands early from McEachern. Just trying to make other people beat you. Not saying that they can't. Ayrton Page is a good big man for them. They got good players that can beat you as well. But it's going to be a tough matchup, but I think it's one of the better ones in the state.
Yep, obviously Wheeler hasn't lost in the state. They've had a couple 9-point games, but recently they've just been blowing everyone out. I think that Newton game was when they really hit their stride. That was a test. Everyone was hyping up the game. But you have Wheeler heading to this matchup, 14-game win streak. McEachern, 15-game win streak. I just think with Isaiah, though, he doesn't necessarily have the jumper, but he's so good at getting his teammates involved. And then from what I saw in the Newton game, it's like he's getting everyone involved, and then when he wants to score, he puts his head down and gets to the basket and is just so dangerous. So I don't know how McEachern's going to counter that, but I think it will be interesting to see. But would you say just across the board that probably is the premier matchup to be watching for?
Oh, without a doubt. That is the premier matchup this week. If I had to say second, it would be Norcross and Newton. But, yeah, that is definitely the primetime matchup this week. If you have nothing to do, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of media is probably going to be there. That is the ticket in town, state, maybe even in the country to go see. But I'm going to actually go upset, I guess you could say. They have the same record, but probably most people are going with Wheeler. But I think them being on the road, going upset. I think McEachern's going to come out with a win.
Yep, and that would be amazing to see. It would definitely take the headlines, and it would take a great performance of guys stepping up, beating that team. But I think it's also, as I was pointing out, Wheeler hasn't really played in a close game recently. So if McEachern comes out hot early, gets that energy buzzing in front of the home crowd, I think they're definitely not going to back down to that opportunity. They have their sights set on a state title. Let's look at 6A real quick. Just on the boys' side, Grovetown's been playing well, but you look at the remaining teams, all number 1 seeds. Do you think it's more wide open than some people do just with Grovetown in this loaded field?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do. I think you can't sleep on Lanier. They picked up a really good win against South Paulding. They have a really good team, players that step up. I think that match is going to be interesting. Obviously, Grovetown's, the creme de la creme, but I think Lanier, they have some pieces that could, score the ball well and, make it difficult on defense. So I think that match is going to be interesting. And I think Alexander versus Jonesboro is another interesting matchup. Alexander, I think, is another good team. Probably going to see them on a collision course of making the state title. They have a really good group. Enjoyed covering them this past couple of weeks as far as the state tournament. I think they have a good basketball team, so I think that's going to be another good matchup to watch out for.
And then what do you think the significance of McDonough's win was just in the last round, coming off getting the 3 seed, some of the injuries, but to see 4 guys step up, have a great overall game, and then just to have that 40-point blowout over Sonoraville, do you think that's really been a shot in the arm for McDonough?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge for you, on the road and be the number 1 team like that. The game wasn't even close. 4 different players in double figures. You're missing one of your best players, Davion Thomas, and you go on the road and get off that big victory in blowout fashion. I mean, yeah, that's definitely huge. Obviously, it won't be easy not playing with him, but they got some players that have been playing together for a long time. Ahmad McDowell, Avante Nichols, Keenan Gray, all of them have been there, done that, and have played in major games. So they just haven't quite gotten it through. But again, this is my pick to get it to the state title and to win. So that's a big shot in the arm to come on the road and get that victory. It's huge.
Absolutely. Then quickly on the girls' side, with 7A, 2 matchups are standing out. I think Archer at Norcross looks really good, and then South Forsyth at Brookwood. What do you expect just in some of these 7A matchups for the girls?
Yeah, I think Archer Brookwood will be really good. Diana Collins has been having a phenomenal season. Again, it's their state title to lose. Talked to the head coach earlier this year. They have a really good group of girls, really good team. I think they bind together well. They just play a good brand of basketball. So I think that's going to be an interesting match with South Forsyth, but I'm going to go with Brookwood on that one. I think they're going to pull that one out. They just playing really good together. I think they only have, 1 loss or 2 losses on the season. So I think that's just going to, be a good game for them. I got them winning that. I think Archer and Norcross will be a little bit more intriguing between those two. I think that'll be a closely contested game. I got Norcross winning that one too, coming out. But I think it'll be closer than most people think. I think it'll be a battle in the first half for sure.
And then one other girls' game, obviously this is going to be a great contest, but Baldwin at Luella. How important is it for Luella just having a real top 10 team coming to their place in the quarterfinals, just in their kind of aspirations for the state title? Baldwin obviously came out of that Griffin region, but I think Baldwin at Luella, that's a big challenge for the Lions.
Yeah, for sure. Baldwin is a really good team. They play good basketball. I think Luella, this is their chance to make some noise. I believe when I talked to the coach, I don't believe they've won a title yet. I might be wrong. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I don't think they've won a state title yet. But yeah, I think this is the year. They have a really good roster and a really good team. It won't be easy, but I think Luella will be able to pull that one out. It's a home game for them. A lot of stuff on the line. It's a puncher's ticket to the semifinals. I like what the head coach is doing over there. They've had a great year. I got them winning that game, advancing on to the semifinals. I think Baldwin, it'll be a tough test, but ultimately I got them winning.
Yeah, that will be really interesting. And then the winner of that will play Holy Innocents at Trinity Christian's winner. And according to the AJC rankings, Holy Innocents is number 1 right now on the girls, and they're going to be one of 10 number 1 ranked teams that are going on the road this round. So that will be a storyline to watch for sure. Another one I believe is going to be Sandy Creek. Obviously the Wheeler boys, they're on the road. So it's going to be interesting to see. And sometimes it's just the coin flip because they are the top seeds, but a lot of road test for sure. But Najeh, thank you so much.
Yep.
We'll have more coverage obviously tomorrow on these matchups. Your show Thursday recapping the quarterfinals, setting the stage for the semifinals. Going to be a great week. So we will see you soon.
Yes, and one more thing before I go,
Yep.
y'all make sure to check out the other couple games in 4A that's really good. Pace Academy Baldwin's going to be good, McDonough Westover, and then obviously I think Mays Eagles Landing. That game's not being talked about enough. Eagles Landing has only lost one game this whole season. Mays has played very good basketball, just being able to kind of fight through things, coming back from runs. I think that Mays versus Eagle Landing game is going to be really electric out there in 5A for the boys' side. Watch out for that game. Eagles Landing, you can say they haven't been really tested that much this year. And they just want to say on the way out.
Yep, great points right there. Yeah, Mays is very dangerous in the playoffs, and obviously surviving that overtime victory over Wanderboro, that is just huge. Huge momentum for the Raiders. And yeah, they don't really have that one guy. They're a true team. So I think it'd be great to see that one. Eagles Landing obviously is going to go into it with their incredible record. So big time matchups. We'll try our best to cover it all. We will have roundups both Tuesday and Wednesday night of the action. So let me close out the show real quick. I thought this would be a good time to go over the Directors Cup standings, because in terms of winter sports, the only remaining one we have to crown is basketball. And we just talked about the teams that are still in it, but we've already had wrestling, cheerleading, all those other sports. And so at this point, I was just going to go over who's leading the current standings. Obviously, we still have a busy spring. It's going to be baseball, track, lacrosse, soccer, all that. But in 7A right now, North Gwinnett has a commanding lead with 819 total points. Lambert ended up finishing second to Walton. And a reminder, the Directors Cup, it adds up the points for every single sport. You get them for making the playoffs, and then if you win a state title, it's 100 points. If you finish in the semifinals or runner-up, it's 90, etc. So, yeah, it means a lot for the school to win a Directors Cup. It says that you have the best overall athletics, but I think just as a casual fan, as someone that's a resident of the state of Georgia, it is really something that should be considered. I mean, if you're a young family and you're wanting your kids to get into athletics, it's like you can literally look at this list and it's going to show you what programs have the best athletics across the board. So it's a big deal to be leading the conversation in this. But North Gwinnett is pacing 7A right now. They got 819 points. Lambert, who fell short to Walton last year in the standings, has 776. And then I think Walton they're definitely going to have some catching up to do. They're at 600 points right now, so a full 219 points behind North Gwinnett. They're going to need to handle tennis, all these other sports to try to get enough. North Gwinnett was boosted by their big performance in the swimming state titles. That gave them 100 points. And then Mill Creek, obviously their football state championship, their third place finish in wrestling. They've been racking up the points. So right now, North Gwinnett's at 1, Lambert 2, Mill Creek 3, Carrollton 4, Brookwood 5, Buford 6, and Walton is down at 7th place. Milton is in 8th place. So it'll be really interesting to see who wins the 7A Directors Cup. Now let's look at 6A real quick. Pope is leading Marist 717 to 663. It's really close. Obviously, the Marist girls are still in it in basketball. The Pope boys, I believe, are still in it. They might have lost in the last round, but they'll get points for that. And let's see. Yeah, Pope is led majority by their girls right now. The bulk of their 770 points has come from the girls. In 5A, Jefferson is leading Cambridge, Calhoun, and Chattahoochee. They got 363 total points on the boys. Overall, though, obviously they just won the wrestling state title. The overall standings, McIntosh 711, Jefferson 693. So less than 20 points separating them. Greenbrier, Cambridge, and Chattahoochee are also in striking distance. The 4A, this would be a big deal for North Oconee to win the Directors Cup. I've said that I think in a few years they're going to be the next Buford. That area is absolutely blowing up, and they're great across the board. Their men's golf team, their men's tennis team is up there in the conversation with Milton Lacrosse, Jefferson wrestling. They're just so dominant in those sports. It's really hard to believe that they get it done like that every year, but they're holding their own with a lot of newcomers in 4A that have been previous winners of the Directors Cup, and they're leading Stars Mill, Lovett, Pace Academy, Whitewater, and Westminster right now by about 80 points. So that's how dominant North Oconee has been. And obviously their baseball team's great too, so I think they're in the front seat. In 3A, Columbus, they won the Directors Cup last year, and right now they are leading 3A significantly. They have 560 points. Wesleyan and Oconee County are more than 160 points behind. In Class 2A, Mount Perrin is leading the way with 551 points. They're leading Fannin County, who won it last year. Class 2A looks dramatically different with all these private schools coming up into 2A, coming into 3A, 4A, like I mentioned with Pace Academy, etc. So Mount Perrin is leading that one comfortably right now. And then in Class A, Whitfield Academy has 175 points and Mount Vernon has 168. The Mount Vernon boys are still alive in the basketball state playoffs and look like they could take this year's title. That would be a huge 200 points for them. A newer school that has never won a Directors Cup but has been really playing well. Football team is good this year. They're great in basketball, and their athletics are really coming together. So that is who's currently leading. Be something to watch after basketball, but definitely as the spring season reaches the playoffs in a month and a half. But that's all we got for you today. We will be back tomorrow with Keeping It Real with Najeh Wilkins. Sorry, with Underrated and Overlooked. I'll be back Wednesday, and then Keeping It Real with Najeh Wilkins will be on Thursday. But thank you for joining us. I hope you guys have a good week.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual.